Welcome back to the Time for Heroes podcast.
On the podcast today, I've got Elliot and Aidan, two brothers who are in the band Fat Salad. We're going to talk about their career so far and what's coming up. What I like to do at the start of the podcast, guys, is get right back to the start. What was life like for you two growing up?
Aidan, do you want to go or?
Yeah, I'll take the start of it, and then maybe you can like fill in a few blanks bits that you know kind of you're picking up from. I think from my perspective, obviously, Elliot's the older one. Elliot's 3 years older, and we also have I've got an identical twin called Aaron, who was initially in the band playing drums. Mm-hmm. So there's 3 of us in the band, but he's off traveling in Australia. So like we've all kind of always been like quite musical. I think Elliot, correct me if I'm wrong, you got your first guitar when you were about, 10 or 12. Aaron had managed to get his hands on a drum kit. So there was always kind of like music floating about. And I think when we were younger, I think it was like quite a nice privilege for us that we were all like involved in that. Like we could all be like kind of musical together. And like I'd say probably what started that was it's got to be Dad and his taste in music. I mean, he brought us up on, I'd say, the Rolling Stones, you know, the Who, like the classics. And I think that was definitely for me just like a little bit of a light to a flame. You know, like just absolutely lit off the kind of creativity for me and the inspiration on that side of things. Where did it kind of start for you?
Yeah, so like we've been since day one, really. We used to go on like long sort of holidays up north to the Lake District, and my dad would just have like just some really classic records, some old school Bob Dylan, the Who, Who's Next, like Aidan was saying, Stones, Led Zeppelin, like guitar driven sort of classic rock, I guess, tunes. And then so that's like the musical background to us sort of growing up. And then I had a mate who played guitar, and then I remember going around his house, and I only had Guitar Hero at the time. He had an actual guitar, and he was just playing to some AC/DC in the front room. And I remember I just looked at him. I was like, I need to be able to do that, just to like command the room like that, and play guitar like that, and just sort of like it was just like magic in front of me. So I remember going to Dad like, I want to play the guitar. And he
didn't buy you a Guitar Hero one, did he?
No.
But you had actual one with 6 strings.
Yeah. And he's always been, I'd say he's a musician who can't play music. So he loved music, like to the bone. And so to him, it was like, okay, yeah, let's get you a guitar. So before I know it, I'm playing guitar. Then Aidan naturally started playing guitar. And then Aaron, being Aaron, our other brother, was just like, well, I'm not going to play guitar because you two play guitar, so I'm going to play drums. And then before we knew it, we're just sort of all playing in like the front room downstairs, just absolutely sort of smashing the living shit out of our instruments and just having a good time. And then like nothing sounded good in those early days, but we were always playing together. Then I was in another couple of bands who Aaron ended up playing drums with. And then, so we played together for years. And it was only when I graduated from university, then Aidan and Aaron graduated from university, that we like properly, we entertained the idea of Fat Salad beforehand, but then it was like everyone was in the same house at the same time with like nothing really to do, no like career objectives. It was just like, let's just make music. Let's just like give this a go. And then I think within 6 months of deciding we're going to give it a go, we were in the middle of Camden in this recording studio with a producer who's actually now the current drummer, and recording our first single. And it was all just sort of it's all felt very almost scripted in the way it's just like this was always going to happen. We're always going to play in a band. We're always going to give it a go. And now we're like selling out venues in London and stuff, and like just have like a cult following in sort of our world of things. And it's almost kind of surreal in the way that everything's sort of knitted together, and like everyone learning their instruments at different times, but all from the background of our dad, loving music. So I guess that's the underlying story.
Your dad sounds a bit like me. That's why I get this podcast, because I absolutely love music, but I've got no talent at all. I used to be able to sing until one messy night on Jaeger bombs, and I've never been able to sing since. So, this is where I'm at. This is my wee niche in the music industry now, as a podcast.
But Martin, did you say you had a messy night too much and you couldn't sing after?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Yeah,
Let's go into that a little bit.
I used to we go out and we do karaoke and all that, and I was always up doing karaoke. And there was this one night we were out in mixed company, and I met this guy, and every time we were at the bar, he was buying me Jaeger bombs. And then there was karaoke later on, and I went up to sing, and my wife says, she turned around, she says she's just heard this racket. She's like, who the fuck's that? And it was me singing. And from then, I've never been able to sing. So I blame it on the Jaeger bombs.
It must be. I will never have a Jaeger bomb again now, out of fear that that's going to happen to us. We got to protect it, El.
Yeah. I mean, that night I get carried home. I get carried out a taxi. Two of my mates carried me up the stairs to my bed, and then everybody else fucked off back into the pub. So that's why I get the podcast now. After that night, that was me done. So, at any point then, like when you were crashing about in the living room, did your dad regret at any point kind of buying these instruments?
I'm sure there was many points that he just went, oh, bloody hell, I've bitten off more than I can chew here. I've got 3 kids. I'd say we're pretty boisterous as lads. And I think it must have been like, bloody hell, like we're in for it now, until like they're either going to get better and it's going to sound better and be more tolerable, or they're just going to stay crap. And I mean, I'm hoping it's a bit more tolerable now, if I'm honest. But I think that must have been tough at the start. And then, like, I was always self-taught with singing, but to sing, to get better, you have to practice. So I think probably when I first started singing, when I was probably, I don't know, like 16, 17, that must have been quite a difficult thing to experience. Elliot, you've probably got some opinions here as well, because you were there during that time.
I mean, this is a bit of Fat Salad exclusive, but there were a few conversations in earlier days where someone would say, does Aidan know he sounds like that? But I think on a deeper level, I've always been a guitar man, and I've always wanted to sing, but I've always found singing's like a hard thing to do, because you're so vulnerable and you're so out there. And I don't know if like how much Aidan knows this, but like I've always wanted to protect Aidan from, I guess, people. Like I've always wanted to encourage Aidan and provide that environment for him to be able to develop his singing voice. When I was learning to play guitar, I felt so vulnerable that like I shied away from actually learning how to sing, and like I never wanted to put myself out like that. I always hid behind like albeit wicked solo, but like I wanted to. I was always hiding behind that sort of veil of the music. I feel comfortable there. And when Aidan was starting to learn to sing, I felt, especially as his older brother, I felt very passionately about like, no, we have to like sort of change the dynamic in the house. Because like in the house we have a lot of banter, be like, oh yeah, no, that wasn't very good, or like, why are you doing it like that? But I'm sort of, yeah, I guess I went out my way to make sure that the environment was there, that we're building upwards and developing Aidan as a frontman and as a singer, and like building up confidence. And then you have to have confidence, and then you can get to sound good. But it's really hard to sound good if you haven't got the confidence. So I guess there's that sort of underlying dynamic in us growing up as well, and why Aidan became the front man and why I became the guitarist man.
Mm-hmm. Which
I think it's. Oh, go on, Martin. Sorry.
Well, I was when you're saying about that, about providing the support and all that, which I think that's admirable that you're doing that. Could you imagine Noel Gallagher giving Liam that sort of time and space to breathe?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess
I've
we have a
never
slightly
heard that
different
story
dynamic.
told ever. I've never heard that story told ever where no help Liam it like that. So
No, I don't think. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, we still have that, and then behind the scenes, there's a lot of piss taking. There's a lot of ribbing and sort of competitiveness as well. We're quite a sporty family as well. We all grew up playing rugby and whatnot, and so I think competitively, even in terms of music, we've been a bit like that. And I remember. I think it was John Lennon and Paul McCartney. They spoke about having that sort of competitiveness where it's like, well, I've written this. Well, I've written this. I think me and Aidan sort of share that in a songwriting partnership as well, where it's like, I've done this. Well, I've done this. And then obviously it's coming out under the same badge. And like, it doesn't really matter. It's like, but it does matter because you need that battle of attrition to get sort of the best creative idea. And so I feel like we're supportive, but also we have the element where it's competitive and
let's push each other. I think is the thing we kind of lean. I think it's like you said, a few interesting things there, especially about when I was first learning to sing and how like you didn't feel comfortable enough to kind of do that, so you kind of use your guitar instead. Whereas I definitely probably had the confidence and the skills came after that. But I find it really interesting because we definitely had to learn how to have that relationship with one another. Because obviously, like growing up brothers, it's like, oh, it's my brother, like it's like sibling rivalry, all that. So I think we really had to do a lot of work, and not in a bad way, just like it was so new to us to create an environment of, being comfortable and being able to be that vulnerable in front of each other and make mistakes in front of each other. And also like Elliot said, like have that kind of competition to be like, oh, I've made all this progress in the last like 2-3 weeks because I've been working so hard at X, Y, Z. And the other one going, oh, cool, that's awesome. Like, this is what I've been doing, and just like bouncing off each other that way has definitely been the reason that I think like we've done quite a lot together, like already. So I don't know. I've always kind of taken that our relationship as in a good way. Like, I'm so privileged to have that opportunity with my brothers,
Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, the way you talk then, it seems quite like you are quite together and you're thinking of how the band's going to work, how songs are going to progress and all that. Obviously, your brother who's not in the band at the moment, how was it with the three then? Was it always like that? Was it always because you are a family? Did you always have that agreement?
Oh, go on, you take this. I feel like you're smiling there. You got some stuff in the locker.
I was smiling because I remember there's a few car journeys on the way to rehearsals that were, I mean, the atmosphere was hot. It was hot. Just because, like, I guess because we're so close and like we've lived together for 20 plus years, like on and off, it means you got the rapport just to, like, if someone's being a dick, to call them out and just be like, listen, like, you can't do this. Or like, if two of you want to do something and one of you doesn't want to do something, then in a normal band, it's just like a democracy that just happens, and you get over it, and you don't hold a grudge against someone else because you don't have that rapport. But when you know someone really well, like, it just gets personal quite fast, and then suddenly you're talking about something completely irrelevant, but somehow it's relevant, which is good. And it's bad. Like, I don't think I think that adds to the music and the richness, especially those first few singles, because like you got three brothers playing on the same song, and all the fighting and all the supportiveness, everything, like it's almost like distilling the energy from the house we grew up in into those early songs. and I don't think you can replace that. I don't think another band can necessarily say they got that sort of richness in the tapestry of their music and the like straight off the bat as well.
It's funny you say that as well, because obviously another of my favourite bands is the Cribs, and they are probably what you described there about the energy and stuff like that. That's exactly what they've got, and again, it's two twins and another brother. So it's that same thing, and the thing with that as well, you've obviously got that because of the Freeze, or there was the Freeze, you get that kind of gang mentality. So as much as you might take the piss at each other, you're also always going to protect one another as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So what were you going to say, Aidan? Because you were going to jump in, and then Elliot kind of come in. What was your kind of take?
To be honest, I think Elle said pretty much everything that I was going to say. There's definitely like there's times, especially when Aaron was like more involved in what we were doing, where like especially because he's my identical twin. The guy looks like me, he acts like me. We're very similar, although distinct personalities, but like there's just a lot that's the same. So I think it's very easy for me and him to look at each other and just be like, oh, like F off, mate, or whatever. And it's like refining that and learning to have our professional time where we're like, you know, we treat our band practice stuff in, I'd say, a pretty professional way. And that's the way we want to do it, because as much as it's great that we're close and we've got that, you know, comfortability with one another, it's also sometimes you've got to learn what to cut out and what to take with you. But I definitely, I mean, I'm sure there's been some amusing times for the likes of George, our old bassist, and Nathan and Rob, who are currently in the band with us. I'm sure there's been some amusing occasions where they've just gone, what is going on? And it's just two brothers bickering.
Yeah, I'd imagine the guys just learn to kind of zone out and just leave you to it.
Yeah, they know they've got to let us fight it out, and then within like 5 minutes, like we're shaking hands and like it's fine. Do you know what I mean?
And like we're the twins and then the older brother as well. That's the other thing. I thought like if there is a power dynamic, is it yourself, Elliot, is the older one, or when Aidan and Aaron get together, do they team up because they've got that twin element?
I think it's I wish it was like that.
Is that why he's forced me on it, to give yourself a bit more power?
To take control.
No, I think it's more it's actually a bit more cloak and dagger than that. It's a bit more political. If something's about to happen, Aaron will come to me, or he'll slide me a text, and then he'll sort of he'll lobby me, and then and then put his motion forwards, and then we'll see what happens then. Or likewise, Aidan will come to me and be like, listen, mate, like, Aaron's really taking the piss. Like, I think we should do this. And likewise, they probably do the same to me. So I don't think
I mean, I think a lot of those, like, you know, the things that we probably like put into you and stuff like that is that we just needed someone else that wasn't me or Aaron to deal with it, or like have a say in it, so we can kind of have a more holistic, you know, approach to what we're dealing with. Like, for me, I think there's a lot of times that I remember where, like, in a good way, like we'd just be talking about something very minute in a song, but because when like a lot of the songs at the start, like I probably come with I'd say, you know, the backbone, the skeleton of the song, and then like Elliot would start fleshing it out and it build like that. I probably was quite protective over it. So when Aaron, you know, wanted to make a change or thought we should do X, Y, Z, I was probably quite defensive because, you know, it's like I felt like I don't know, responsible for it, almost. But then I think that's also something that I had to learn, that it's not a bad thing to have that change and have another opinion there. So I definitely think Elliot, like on the odd occasion, just being like, this is a better call, or just like having to make a decision yourself, definitely helped out there.
I think that's actually quite an interesting point, because the songwriting's definitely matured in that sense, because it used to be one of us has come up with an idea, and the other one be like, yeah, but it really needs this. And this moment was changing it just for the sake of changing it. And just from like a pure like ego brotherly way, it was like, yeah, no, because I've done that, now it's better. And I think it's finally we finally moved on from that and matured. I think having the other guys in the band as well, with their creative input, it's become a lot more streamlined, a lot more mature, and like if the idea is no good, the idea is no good, and there's no shame in that. Whereas previously it'd be like, this is my idea. Like if it doesn't get to the front, then there's going to be trouble. So I think from that perspective, we've definitely sort of moved on, and I think the next few songs that are about to come out are definitely going to reflect that as well.
Interesting. Obviously, you touched on kind of some of your influences growing up, like the Who, the Rolling Stones, and all that, kind of all the classics. What sort of like current bands were you into when you started it?
And do you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, I've always, I think the first ones I was very much influenced by were bands like, the Vaccines, the Kooks, like very kind of, I just really liked the way that a lot of their music was like quite simple, but everything just had their role and it just all just blended like so well. And I liked, the way their vocals, the lyrics, the way everything worked. So I think I took a lot from their writing styles as well. But then, I look onto like other music like Stereophonics and stuff like that, which I've always kind of really loved Kelly Jones's voice. And so I've taken bits for that. I think, I don't know, they're the ones from the top of my head that I think, I really picked up on when I was first getting into it. But I also think as like, the longer we've been doing this for and the more songs I write, like you just go through phases of having different inspirations. I might listen to like Cage the Elephant for, a month or two, like straight, just absolutely loving their stuff. So I'm probably going to pinch a few bits that I'm like, that's excellent. Like I really love the way they've done that. Let's see if we can learn that and, integrate that in some sort of form into what we're doing. Mm-hmm. So I definitely think like what we are now is just an amalgamation of like all the inspirations we've always had. But like, Elle, what would you say, your first kind of influences were there?
Well, I remember being at school and everyone's got that mate who's like banging to bands that are like on the scene now. And I remember like one day I just started talking to him, and then because I knew he liked music, and then he was like, oh yeah, no, you should come to this gig, and then this gig, and then this gig. And then so I went from a world of being like quite backdated in my musical knowledge because of like music my dad liked and like all the sort of like classic rock stuff. And then suddenly I was seeing bands like Car Seat Headrests, Cage the Elephant. There's an American outfit called the Orwells who did a UK tour. I remember they played the Electric Ballroom in Camden, and that gig particularly left quite a big imprint on me because it was just chaos in like the best possible sense. It was like a really sort of rowdy, sort of 18 to late 20s crowds, and then like girls in their 20s like loving guitar music, whereas like I thought that sort of passage has sort of like moved on. I was like, oh no, like guitar music is still cool. It's just sort of moved. And then like the guy that I forgot the lead singer's name, but he was sort of egging the crowd on. The crowd were like basically like climbing onto the stage, like security get involved. Like I actually stole a microphone from that gig. I heard the Electric Ballroom microphone. But it was just like the chaos in the air and the energy and the sort of it's like it was like a palpable sense of like, this is really cool because this is a band with guitars. They're young and they're just like making everyone go like a little bit like mad, and it's sweaty, it's hot. Like people are singing the guitar lines back to the band. It was just like really wicked. And then so yeah, bands of that sort of ilk. That was like my first sort of sense of like, yeah, no, I definitely want to be in a band. And I guess I've always tried to take that energy to Fat Salad, and I think we've had quite a few gigs like that, Aidan, haven't we? Where like things have got a little bit out of control, and people where there shouldn't be. We've had like a few people have started bringing like lettuces to gigs and like throwing it at us, and it's like, okay, that's cool.
Throwing salad.
Yeah. So yeah, in terms of like inspiration, not just like the music, but in terms of like the power music can have on people, as like definitely trying to draw that from specifically that gig and just to apply that to our live show, I guess.
So on gigs then, so I've got here your first gig, 28th of July, 2023 at the Pato Lounge, if I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
In Orpington. So where's that? Is that like London?
Yeah, Kent. So it's like southeast, a bit further out.
Yeah,
That was just, local pub. This first gig for us. Let's say yes to anything. We need to just play some songs, however good, however bad it was. Like for a first show, we had an absolutely rammed pub. Like we put it on ourselves. We made like an absolute big deal out of it. And I like even in hindsight, I look back on that now, and I was like, for a first show, like we didn't put a bad show on. Bear in mind, I think how we weren't that at 22, like first time doing those kind of things. Like let's see what happens. I remember like we just absolutely just brought as much energy as possible, and I think we still love to live like that. Like there's nothing better for me that when I see a live show than when I see the people playing the music just absolutely loving it, like bringing that energy, bringing that like passion that they have. And then I definitely think that that's something that I've always said, like if I'm gonna like play music with my brothers and like enjoy it and do the shows, I'm gonna show people that I'm enjoying it. I'm not just gonna sit there like be like all monotone and just sit there like just doing nothing. I'm gonna move, I'm gonna dance, do whatever, just get things going. But I remember that gig was like the pub was full for a first show. El, what are your memories of that?
That was a wild show because we didn't really advertise it that much. We just sort of said, look, we're playing at Pato Lounge, like everyone come down, and everyone come down, and we just basically flooded the place with our mates. We didn't have to try too hard because they're like, it's cheap beer, it's local, like there's no excuses really. We're gonna have our guitars and play, and like it was chaos really. Like there wasn't really a stage. There was like a really measly bit of yellow and black tape around the pedal boards, and it was like, yeah, that'll do. That'll stop everyone.
That'll stop the crowds.
And then we had a PA system that we ended up for some reason investing in over lockdown, and so like we carted that down in my old car. And then we had like half a drum kit set up, just like we didn't really know what putting on a gig properly entailed, but we had a good idea. We'd seen enough. So like we just sort of got everything in order, and then like everyone was just absolutely hammered. And everyone was like singing the songs. It was just like, it was what music should be really. It was all your mates in a room, all pissed up, loving life, just being like in solidarity in the moment. And then you look around, it's like, well, me, one of my mates and my two brothers are here doing this and just like making it work. And it's just awesome. I don't think you could sort of replicate how well and chaotic it was. And then after that, we had, we were staying at my mum and dad's house. And I remember my mum said that you can't have like an after party, like no one can come back. And I was like, okay. And then
Okay.
so Aidan went back after the venue closed. And then so Aidan was back, and then my mum was looking around like, oh, this is all right. Like it's just Aidan and a few mates. I'd taken everyone from the pub, marched them down to the petrol station down the inner road. We all picked up a load of tins. Then about 10 minutes later, I knock on the door, and there's just a huge parade of people.
There was a horde
down
of
the
people
road, queuing up to get into the house. It was absolutely like monstrous. Then we had a party that went on to about 5 a.m. in the morning.
I smashed up my bed that night as well. There's a picture of me, and oh my God, like I've somehow like managed to absolutely, like, I'm not even joking, the whole spine of my bed is broken into, the slats are everywhere. It's unsleepable. Mm-hmm. So in my drunken state, I've pulled my mattress off, just dumped it on the floor, like on top of like all my clothes, like just literally in the worst position ever. And like I've got myself really comfy, and I think I must have had a teddy bear from when I was younger, just in my other room. And in my drunk state, I picked him up, and there's just a picture of me, my bed smashed up, me cuddled up with my old teddy bear from when I was younger, and a duvet over me. Oh my God, that was a memory and a half.
So for your first gig then, obviously so chaotic, how has how has your live experience grown for then to as now? Obviously, in the intervening period, we've had people throwing salads, so it's obviously progressed in that way. What other ways has the live experience progressed?
We're slightly better, and we wear slightly more clothes.
Uh-huh.
Um,
And,
but
um,
oh, sorry, go
no, on you go.
on. But I guess the way we play the songs have changed quite a bit as well. Sorry, we got our first producer. He now plays the drums,
Hmm.
and he's rearranged how we play the songs. So we got studio versions and we got live versions, and the impact the live versions have is like it's night and day really, because we were trying to replicate the studio on stage, and that works, but also doesn't work for some songs. So we just sort of mixed it up really. And do you want to elaborate a bit more?
Yeah, I think the way we've kind of progressed is that definitely just in the professionality of what we're doing. Like, I think that the first thing we always said was like, I think where people like miss out on what they're doing is like, you know, say a group of brothers and a group of mates get together and they want to start a band, like they treat it as like a hobby. And so I think straight from the bat, we just said, we're going to treat this like a business and we're going to run it in a good way, because that's the only way you can kind of do this kind of thing now. So I think we were very strict on that. So it was like, we're always practicing together, always working individually. And then like, if we know we've got a gig, it's just like, okay, we've organized a set, we've tailored it all for this exact kind of headline. Like we now put on our own show, so we'll self promote because it's just better than, you know, a lot of the promoters we've worked for that haven't really done much promoting. So everything we do now is off of our back. But it works out in such a better return of, you know, the crowd, the quality of the event. So I think there's a lot of intricacies that have actually improved drastically. Bear in mind, you know, what first gig was 2.5 years ago. 3 years ago. I think we've come on leaps and bounds in that sense. I mean, Ellie, I'm assuming you're probably going to agree there, but correct me if there's anything else I've missed.
No, I'd say just subtle things like the way we play "Let Me Shine." We've developed it so much. We've turned it into more of a. I guess what we've done is we've turned it into an experience where it's like. When you come to a gig, we're throwing a party, we're going to have a good time. We always make sure there's an after party. We always make sure there's a pub to go to afterwards. We've got one of our producer mates over in Australia. We got him to do a remix of Let Me Shine. And it's like, we're going to play that at the after party. So you're always listening to Fat Salad. And like, just subtle things like that. So there's more angles as a fan to buy into the band and sort of like, really share the experience. And I said, when we started the band, I said to Aidan, like, we can't just play shows and just sort of go, because that's just the worst thing ever. When you see a band, they play their set, everything's packed up in the van, and they're off. People paid money to come and see you, so you want to give back and you want to talk to the people who actually care about your music, because it never gets old. Someone going, like some randomer just turning up and being like, I absolutely love Ecstasy. Like, that's so cool. Like, we really love that song. Like, that's like never in our dizziest daydreams did we ever think we'd get to a point where that would happen. So when that does happen, it's just awesome. It's awesome to be able to get to know people. We got sort of like, I guess, loyal fans who just come along to gigs who we don't know from Adam, other than the fact that they come to our shows, they buy our T-shirts and they share our songs. And they just love what we do. And that's a privilege and an honour to sort of be in that position, I guess.
Yeah. The debut single, so obviously 28th of July you played your first gig, the 1st of December that year, 2023 you released Falling Off Your Tongue. And obviously, like we touched on, influences, obviously you mentioned the Cooks, the Vaccines, Cage the Elephant came up quite a bit. The initially for listening to it, I heard Foo Fighters straight away. That's kind of that energy, that rock sound. So do they come up any in your kind of influences?
I've always enjoyed their sound, but they've never been like my favorite ever. But I've like, I know a lot of their songs. Some of my best mates, I absolutely like, head over heels, like fans for these guys. And I really enjoy their style, their music, like how they write. And then we've got that a lot. We've had a lot of people say, oh yeah, do you know what? As soon as I heard that, I was like, oh, it's like the Foo Fighters. And we were actually quite surprised because we never even thought of that as like one of the main influences for it. But then like we listened to it back and I was just like, with that context, and I was like, oh, do you know what? Like it really does. There's a lot of bits here that are reminiscent of that. So I think it was actually quite inadvertent that we landed on that sound. What would you say, Al?
Yeah, no, Foo Fighters got chucked up a lot, and like no one in the band listens to Foo Fighters. It's really weird. But I mean, it's not a bad compliment. We'll take it. I remember when we were in the studio, we're sort of, because obviously it was our first time in the studio. It was our first time working with the now drummer Natan producing it, and I think the Libertines were cited quite a bit. We wanted like a trashy, not too clean sort of UK rock kind of sound. And I remember one friend texted me as soon as it came out. It was like 90s sitcom, and I was like, "Oh,
yeah,
shit, great!"
Yeah,
but he didn't mean it in a bad way. Just sort of, it's got kind of a nostalgic sort of aesthetic sort of tone to it.
Yeah, I get that.
Underlying it. But yeah, that we also like, there's no intention. We never like pointed at a band and were like, we want to be like this. Like,
yeah,
it's always been quite because you see some bands, it's like, you want to be Oasis. You see some bands like, you're a rip-off Libertines. But like, this is like, I don't know, it feels very organic, and like, it's not to say what we've done is like groundbreaking, not whatsoever, but at the same time, it's, I guess every musician struggles to, but I don't know necessarily like the specific angle Fat Salad takes on indie rock. It's just the sound it is.
Yeah, I think there's a variety in your songs, because obviously like the next single you released, I got Teenage Fan Club there, and then I've seen somewhere where somebody mentioned the Beach Boys, and it's probably the same thing, Teenage Fan Club and the Beach Boys, with it's the harmonies.
Yeah.
And that probably again then comes for having like all the siblings in the band that yous are doing the harmonies. Obviously, like Little Love as well. It's a slower tempo than the previous single as well. And then obviously going forward with your other releases, you sound more and more UK based the further into your releases, I think.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I also think like we're very comfortable and like aware of the fact that like each song we release is hopefully better than the last, and that's kind of the aim. So like your sound is always changing, and I think it's a good thing. I think when people get, too stuck in like, oh, we have to sound like this, like you kind of end up putting yourself in a box where I think we're very comfortable with the fact that, do you know what, we're learning, we're evolving, like you're always learning as an artist. So as long as like the things you're working on at that time are a thorough representation of you and the band, then you're doing the right thing. You can't go wrong. And that's always been something that kind of reassures me in what we're doing,
Yeah, I think that's, kind of, when we set out, we were very conscious that our sound will change. Like, we're never ever going to sound like that first single for like 10 years. And if we do, like, I kind of don't want that to happen because that's boring. It's like, it's your duty to evolve and change. So when we were recording, we made a conscious effort not to go and record 5 songs straight off the bat. We wanted to do a couple, give room to breathe, improve, then come back and grow, and not waste all that money on sort of like the premature version of like what Fat Salad will be. And I think that has benefited us because it's allowed us to grow. It's allowed us to put out songs like Ecstasy, which is like a strange sort of like rock ballad with like almost Australian influences as well.
Yeah.
Bit of Red Hot Chili Peppers in there. And then again, like this next EP that we're going to bring out, I think there's even more flavours in that. But I think underlying all of that, we're slowly sort of distilling what a Fat Salad song is, and almost like an archetype, like, oh, that's Fat Salad, and it takes bands like years to do that, but like when you hear a Strokes song, you're like, that's the Strokes. You hear Libertines, oh, that's the Libertines. It's like, but I guess at no point did they sit down like, this is what we're going to sound like. It's just happens over time with the combination of musicians, songwriters, and producers.
Well, that as well as that, like Let Me Shine, obviously, and then the remix, because listening to your back catalogue, you don't sound like a band that would be having remixes done, and then once you hear that remix, it's nailed it, man. It's perfect.
Yeah, Elliot, I mean, I remember you coming to me and you were like, oh, we're going to get a remix done. I was like, what? That's awesome. But how is that going to work? Like, I could not picture the songs we're doing in a remix. So I was so excited to, have that opportunity from, your friend Ben to kind of do that. But I also think it's something that a lot of bands kind of are missing out on, because that's a whole different demographic of people that you can touch on with one of your songs. So I think that was just like, when it comes to like branding yourselves and putting stuff out there, Elliot, I thought from you and your friend, that was just such an excellent idea. I think in the same vein, that's why, on the side of the band, we do the Fat Salad podcast. It's because, okay, as much as like people need to be involved in the music, Elliot, you said it's an experience that we want to give. So we also want to provide our personalities in the fact that, oh yeah, we'll talk on a podcast. We'll talk about whatever music wise and not music wise. So everyone can kind of have a taste of everything we're doing. So I think when you had that idea of like, let's do a remix, I absolutely loved it. And then it came out and I was like, I could not have even thought of how it was going to come out, and it just came out that well. And I was so happy with it.
Yeah, well, Primal Scream sort of did it first with Screamadelica, because they had the Andy Weatherhall sort of like remixes of it. And like, I really, really love that album. That album actually, it got me into dance music, even though it's not like dance. That like really opened my musical palette. Like, oh, you can actually do this, and as a band, you can do this as well. It's like you can be a guitar-led band, but you can have sort of this sort of like other side to things, and then you can have remixes of the remixes, and like that's okay. Like you're just pushing it, and if anything, you're finding a different audience within sort of the world's musical audience. So there's no downside to it, in my opinion. If you don't like it, don't play it.
Yeah, I thought it was top notch, man. Gigging wise, obviously, for South East London, and looking through your gigs on Instagram, the majority of them are kind of London based. Now, you've played some iconic venues: Camden Assembly, Amerson Arms, Islington, O2 Islington, the Macbeth. A lot of these venues kind of strike to me because of the Libertines. I can mind Libertines playing these venues. So I've seen like a Sheffield gig in there as well, but it is kind of predominantly London. So are you looking to kind of branch out further afield?
So that is very much Project 2026. It's definitely something we want to do, and it's just one of those things. Like in terms of booking gigs, it's hard because unless you know a band in that city, you talk to a promoter and they're like, "Well, how many tickets are you gonna sell?"
Yeah.
And you're like, "Yeah, but we're a new band. Like, we want to build an audience there so we can sell tickets." So it's a bit of tit for tat trying to organise things, and then but that's really sort of what we're looking to do. We had a few things going on in the background of the band, which meant we had a sort of slower festival season than I think we would have liked, just because of availabilities and stuff. So we are definitely looking to play pretty much anywhere with a stage up and down the country.
And that's the thing, because I was managing a band for last year. I was managing a band, and their obviously up here in Glasgow, and they're playing all their gigs in Glasgow, and that's what I kept saying to them. You need to get out. You can't just play Glasgow because you're just playing to the same crowd, and a lot of people will be like, right, well, I'll not go to that gig because I know they're going to play next month or whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're still kind of stuck in that rut as well. So it might be beneficial if I hook you up with them and you could maybe come up here and they could come down to yours, man. That would be,
Yeah, we'll do a gig swap. 100%.
A Glasgow gig would be awesome.
yeah. I think you would get down a treat up here.
Yeah, no, that'd be awesome. Like, and that's it as well. Building relationships. We've got slowly building up a network of bands we're friends with. We're friends with a band in Sheffield, friends with a band in Leeds, friends with a band in Newcastle. It's just trying to get the contract over the line as well. Because like people in bands as well, they are bad at admin. I'll tell you that much.
That is one thing that we've tried our best just to be like on it. This is when I say like, when we try and treat it like a business. It's like, it's the admin is unfortunately just like a massive part of the role as well as making the music. So if, we're not submitting applications to festivals, if we're not, trying to book those gigs, like talking to people, making sure we're active on the social media, then we're really going to be limiting ourselves. So I definitely think like gig swapping with people and like trying to cross-pollinate and create a scene around all of the bands is a much better way to kind of make a scene around you.
Mm-hmm. And that's like, obviously you briefly mentioned the podcast, which, I was kind of, once I seen that you said a podcast, it kind of, it put me back a bit because I thought, no, I'm going to have somebody professional coming on with me, which you really have done. No, you can tell that he's doing the podcast and he's talked so well. And obviously my pal, his band's just split up, the La Fontaines, but they were the same. They had a podcast, and it ended up, it probably grew bigger than the band, just listening to them every week, and it was so humorous as well. It ended up more like a comedy podcast than anything else.
Yeah.
So how do you think the kind of podcast has helped yous to progress?
I think from the start, I mean, we both said me and Elliot, with our relationship with one another, like we just like chatting like absolute crap sometimes to each other, as blokes do. So I think when we first started, it was definitely like, let's just sit down and talk with no agenda, and we'll just see where we go with it. And then we kind of lent in a lot more to, okay, let's get other bands on, let's talk about X, Y, Z, come in with a bit more of a targeted approach. And I think it's just, at the end of the day, it's another plate spinning, and I feel like it's a really good opportunity for us as a band to display who we are as people as well as the music. So if people were invested in us as people and, they can have a laugh or they get on with our personalities, then straight away it's like they're more likely to then enjoy the music as well. So it definitely is kind of, they both support one another. It's another, layer of bricks to kind of build Fat Salad up. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you want to jump in there at all, El.
Yeah, no, the podcast is, it's sort of a weird one, isn't it? It's just, we always said, if it works, it works, and we just let it run on the side. It's never going to be, like, we're not podcasters. It's just sort of like something we do. And it's become quite a nice, almost little routine, even between us as brothers, just to sit down and literally just have a laugh as well. And it's quite nice to...
It's been every week for 70 something weeks now, release an episode consistently. So I think, there's plenty of times where it's like, half an hour a week or 20 minutes a week or something where we just like catch up. We talk about the band, we talk about what we've done, what we've been up to, what we enjoy doing. And I definitely think it's just such a good way to kind of, just talk and get things out there,
Yeah. I mean, and there's 70 plus episodes there for people to dive in. Is it the sort of thing that you can dive in for the start, or what would you recommend?
I feel like, because it's weekly...
I think... Oh, go on, El.
Well, I was going to say the opposite. I was going to say, because it's weekly, it's quite current in terms of what we're doing, but then half the time it's completely off topic anyway, so maybe it doesn't matter.
You touched on, like, Aaron leaving his own hiatus, so... Obviously, how are we saying it? Nathan?
Natan.
Nathan. So obviously he was originally a producer, now drummer, and from what I've seen recently, you're working with another guy, an Australian producer. So how does that work? Like, how does it work producing? How does Nathan get on with that? Does he kind of get involved as well, or does he take a step back?
So for the most recent single, we went to 123 Studios, which is run by Brett Shaw, and so he's produced so many people: Jamie T, Foles, Florence and the Machine. So it was everyone was kind of on the edge because this was the first time Nathan was in the studio as a musician, and we didn't know what it was going to be like with two producers in the room. We thought it's either going to be mega or they're going to have like a weird sort of cat fight. And as much as I wish it was a cat fight, it actually went really well because I guess it gave Nathan a chance to approach our songs from. He didn't have to be the guy responsible for everything, looking over everything, thinking about everything. It's almost like he could sit down and play the drums, but then also creatively he could flow a bit in a different way to producing. So I mean, Nathan's also wicked on guitar, so he was just sat down and he was like, I think I can hear like a melody that needs to go in the chorus. And then because Brett was producing and he was able to sit back, he actually picked up a guitar and then he put another guitar line over the top in the chorus of She Seems to Know, which makes the song. And it's an extra level of sort of musicality that we wouldn't have been able to achieve if it was just us lot in the studio and then Nathan producing, because he would have been too tied up with the technicalities of producing versus creating. So I think it's really sort of coming into its own in that sense. But with this upcoming EP, it's going to be self-produced, which means Nathan's back in the driving seat. But because of the way we're doing it across a range of different studios. It's going to be, because it's an EP and we're doing a bunch of songs at once, we're taking our time a bit more about it, because previously it's been, here's 2 days in the studio, here's 3 days in the studio, come out with a song and a half recorded. So this is going to be much more sort of more thought out, and hopefully we get the best of Nathan in terms of production and creativity, because again, we're able to sit around and just sort of really explore every sort of way the song could sound, and then the best way the song should sound, without having to be like, okay, we've got 2 hours left, like riff and guitars need to be done now so we can get the vocals done, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And how does so She Seems to Know that's like your latest single, so is that going to be on the EP, or are we talking completely on new songs for the EP?
Yeah, that's She Seems to Know, that's just a standalone single. Yeah.
And when are we looking at, like, next year, obviously, for the EP? Are we looking at, like, late into next year? Are you going to drip feed? Like, because obviously the way music's released now, you end up, you bring them out as singles and then they all coincide as an EP at the end. Or would you release, like, the 4 or 5 songs together?
Yeah, I mean, she Seems to Know was like the last kind of single we wanted to release, just as standalones. And now it's kind of like, okay, this is more of a bigger project, of a more holistic view. This is kind of us now after a couple of years of like working hard and progressing. So I think what we'll definitely do is there's going to be four songs on there, that we're absolutely all mad about at the moment, but I think we will release them as singles, and then, like you're saying, collect them into one EP, just because the way we're going to do a waterfall release, which is they all just keep getting added to the same EP as it comes out. And I think that'll be the best way to kind of really build that. Like the aim of 2026 is just to keep building that like kind of momentum, on top of one another. So I'm really excited to see how we kind of do there. It's just like an exciting opportunity for fresh music, fresh ears. And yeah, no, just a good opportunity to get some more stuff out.
Yeah, it makes sense as well to bring them out like that, and kind of you get a gig run about the time of release, whatever, and it kind of it hits harder then if you get a gig run about release, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's just like it means we get an excuse to have a party in between each song, and there's nothing wrong with that, I don't think.
And obviously, I seen February this year, Valentine's Day this year as well. You played London Staghead, and it was a This Feeling show. So, getting on a This Feeling show as well. How was it getting on that? And is there any scope for Mary then? Because obviously, This Feeling probably the biggest promoter of kind of grassroots music like yourself. So, how was it working with you guys?
Um, it was interesting.
Oh,
Um, I think what we've been doing recently is we've been self-promoting,
hmm
and we've had enormous success because of that, because we're able to articulate the lineup, the venue. We also, which isn't very hard to do, and we can sell the tickets. And if we can sell the tickets, we can also keep the ticket money, which means we can actually make more music rather than losing perhaps, I don't know, like 50, 60%
70%, yeah.
Yeah. And especially in London as well, like, yeah, you can be done sort of like quite badly with promoters and whatnot. So yeah, we've leaned heavily into self-promoting this year, and not that we're against promoters, but we've had some bad experiences where on the day of the gig, two more acts have been added, and we're like, what? And then in addition to that, like you're trying to find out how many tickets you sold, and you got to like ring someone up who's going to phone someone else up to look up on the database, and they won't even tell you how many tickets you sold. It's like we're all in this together. Like the more tickets we sell, like the more money you make, but you don't want to give us that information, and it's so it can be really, especially at this level as well. It's the less people involved, the better, so we can provide a better experience as well, and we
right.
can
Yeah.
if we're making more money on the door, we can pay a sound engineer who's good, so we can guarantee the sound quality of the night. We can sort of invest in things. We can invest in the after party. We can buy people drinks and whatnot, and just sort of like make it a bit more of a show rather than everyone sort of scraping pennies. The band's not really knowing each other, and also like almost pitted against each other. Like whoever sells the most tickets headlines, which is fair enough, but at the same time, it sort of it takes the joy out of the evening, so to speak.
hmm
Yeah, I mean, I'll add a little bit there because it wasn't a bad experience at all. Like it was a really good opportunity for us at the time, but I think just the way we are doing things, we just have kind of streamlined that process for us in a way that it's now a better opportunity to do it independently. And I
Yeah,
think it's definitely time. Go on, sorry.
it does sound like you have kind of got your head screwed on. You know what you want to do and how you want to do it, because obviously, like this feeling comes up quite a bit on the podcast, and it is usually always kind of a positive experience. But obviously, for yourselves and the way you want to operate, that doesn't work for you, and the way you are doing it is the way it fits for yourself. So it's maybe that's maybe beneficial then for other bands listening to this, that it's maybe not always the right option.
Yeah, it's definitely. It took us a long while to sort of consider it, because you got to put down a deposit on the venue, and you have to risk that money at the end of the day, and a promoter mitigates that risk for you. Because if you don't sell the tickets, they just go, "Oh, you didn't sell the tickets." And like you say, it wasn't a bad experience with This Feeling. It just felt, I feel like if you can do it yourself, why wouldn't you do it for yourself?
Yeah.
And I feel like this business specifically is quite bad for sort of, oh, well, if you do well at this show, then like maybe we can do well at another show at some sort of mysterious date, and sort of like a lot of carrot dangling, but like not necessarily much sort of encouragement or help along with that. And So I think doing more self-promoted stuff, especially in London where we got a crowd base, it's just been like a purely business decision because we can literally reinvest that money into making the band bigger and better and more successful, faster, and provide a better experience to fans because, like, there's no downside there. Like,
Yeah. So next year, then we're looking at an EP. We're looking at gig swaps, maybe more gigs further afield. Anything else that we can look at for in 2026?
I think.
oh,
Go on now.
well, we're looking to take the festival circuit by storm. We've got about 1 trillion million applications out to national, local. So yeah, just I guess kind of expect to see us up and down the country in Scotland, in Glasgow. We'll play anywhere with a stage, and we've got these singles sort of prepped and ready. We're actually entering into the next stage of writing for the songs after these songs come out. So it's quite a fruitful time, I guess.
And what's the what's the situation with Aaron? Is there any scope for him to come back? Is there any intention for him to come back, or is he going indefinitely?
I don't think we've kind of we're not really putting any pressure on it. It was like, it naturally kind of happened. It was like, that's what Aaron wanted to do, and we were never going to stop him doing that. But at the end of the day, it's like, we still need to do what we want to do with the band. Like, the band cannot stop because you've made a decision to go. Don't get me wrong. Like, we miss his dynamic. We miss him. He's our brother. Like, that's always going to be the case. But, you know, like, if he does want to come back in, I'm sure there's like space to kind of work him in some essence into what we're doing. However, the dynamic or what we're doing would have changed a considerable amount. I mean, he's been gone nearly a year now. And in that time, we've done a lot of like, you know, underground work where we're just like kind of grafting away, chipping away. So I think it will just be a case of like, see what happens when he does come back and what he wants to do. And let's see if we can offer that opportunity in that kind of sense. And I also think it's an exciting time for him to see like how far we've gone in, you know, the time that he's been away for. So I think that'll be a bridge we cross when we go there. But, you know, we're thoroughly enjoying kind of what we have right now.
That sounds amazing. So for all the listeners, if I've not already heard, She Seems to Know was released start of October, 10th of October. That's the latest single. You can go and check that out and then listen to your back catalogue. As we've touched on a lot of the songs, and like I say, there is such variety there. But the last part of the podcast, obviously, it's called Time for Heroes. I asked my guests to pick 4 heroes to come for dinner, why they're your heroes, and what would you cook for them. Dead or alive, musicians, sports people, whatever you like. Just fire away.
Aidan, you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, I'll kick off with, I mean, I think I've mentioned them before, but I think the first person I would love to sit down and just, you know, pick their brain a little bit would be Kelly Jones from Stereophonics. I think that his writing style, what they do, you know, like I find his voice incredible, the way his lyrics are. I think I very much, especially when I was, you know, growing up and I wanted to figure out how do I write songs? How do I do this? How do I, you know, cause it's all new. I think he was one of the guys that I'd always listen to and, you know, just take that inspiration of what he's doing. So I think he'd be the first one I say. And then the second person I'd probably say for myself would probably be, Matt Schultz from Cage Elephant. Again, just a cool bloody dude. Love his music. I love the way in each of their albums that, you know, you can tell that they've worked at their sound. They're working at like pushing what they're doing to the next level each time. And I think they're such a good representation of what an artist's responsibilities are. And it's to create something and just keep learning, keep evolving. And he does that amazingly. And I guess I'll pass over to Elle, if you've got a couple that you'd love to sit down with.
Keith Richards has got to be up there. He's OG, my dude. He's just like, he's so cool. And he's just got so many stories to tell. He's just always been like one of my icons. So it'd be wicked to have him. And then I guess Jim Morrison, just because bro, he was far out, and just sit down with him and to sort of get inside his mind. That'd be guaranteed sort of crazy, and you're going to come away with a good story with that.
Yeah, they're amazing guests. I'm trying to, I'm nearly 150 episodes in. I can't think of anybody that's picked Keith Richards, which is once you kind of say that, you think why? And that guy is so. There's something about him as well. There's something so kind of engaging. You want to know more about him.
Yeah, he's got one of those sort of auras, sort of drenched in mystique and hedonism, and just sort of just born rock and roll, all the way through. And he sounds good as well, so you just can't argue.
I mean, I don't know if you can mind there was that Rolling Stones it was a documentary. It was on BBC last year or the year before.
Yeah,
and it was every episode was focusing on a different one of them. Absolute amazing telly that was.
Yeah, no, I saw all of those.
I think I might have watched it back 2 or 3 times that as well. But a lot better than the Beatles Get Back King. And obviously, what he's cutting these guys as well, just to see how good they are.
We spoke about it.
Yeah, there was a bit of debating going along because I think it's safe to say we're both into our fitness, into our weightlifting, and for that reason we probably eat quite a considerable amount of meat. So I think the first thing that I'd sit there and say to Kelly Jones and Matt Schultz and the rest of the guys is I'd be like, okay, let's cook some, I don't know, beef tartare to start or something like that. Something, high end. No, but do you know what I mean? Present it, whatever you want to say. Something nice, but I feel Kelly Jones, he's not a big bloke. I feel like he'd ask for soup. So I think for the benefit of the doubt, I think I'd go for a Stilton and broccoli soup or something like that to start. And then, Elliot, you were mentioning something quite interesting for mains there.
Yeah, I think we should. Aiden and I have this habit of when we're feeling a little bit lazy, we'll make what we call a dog bowl. The dog bowl is 500 grams of mince, a bit of rice, and some broccoli chucked on top, just all smashed into a bowl. Something you would feed your dog, and I can see the guys getting down with that. Just sort of meat and veg, yeah.
It'll be well seasoned and well cooked. They won't be able to complain too much.
Yeah,
go on.
The irony is, these guys just don't eat. Keith Richards, Jim Morrison doesn't eat.
And then me and you would be finishing off their bowls. But aside from that, and then I think we'd finish off dessert. I mean, I'm a big personal fan of a tiramisu. That's what I like. That's what I'd have to go with.
Yeah. That sounds amazing. Absolutely amazing. Lads, thank you very much for coming on tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. It's been an absolute pleasure listening to your music the last couple of weeks. And I'd encourage the listeners to go and check it out. As I said previously, She Seems to Know released 10th of October. Go back, listen to that, and then listen to the rest of the back catalogue, and hope to see you next year at one of the festivals or up here in Scotland, preferably Glasgow. Glasgow's a lot better than Edinburgh. You don't want to get into all that pretentious stuff. Yeah,
I just got to do the comedy festival. That's what he told me.
I've got nothing in the bank for that. Nothing. Thanks a lot, Martin.
Yeah,
appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.
Absolute pleasure speaking to you. Thank you very much, boys.
Cheers. Thank you.
I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Time for Heroes podcast. If you would like to get in touch, the best way is on the Facebook page, Time for Heroes podcast, or on Instagram at Time for Heroes podcast, or Twitter at Time for Heroes P1, or drop me an email at timeforheroespod@gmail.com. You'll find Time for Heroes on all podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple, Google and Amazon. Please leave a review where you can, share with others, and more importantly, enjoy.